Good morning. This is my good friend and colleague, Paul Kirschbaum. I'm Leslie Wooten. It's 10:33. Let's get into it. Today's topic, the customer is always right. So, Paul, let me completely change the subject. This has nothing to do with the customer is always right. Do you like to receive feedback?
Honestly, yes, I do.
Yeah.
Older I got, I enjoy it more.
Mm-hmm.
When I first got into it as a chef, no.
Yeah. Why is that?
I felt it was an attack on me, not an attack. When I was a chef, it was an attack on me personally, which it's so egotistical, but that's the way I felt at the time. I
Mhm.
was young, I was like a chef in my early 20s. No clue what I was doing. No, zero. So I think it was this insecurity. As I got older, especially as I moved up to the front of the house and into upper management, I kind of understood what it was and why they were giving me feedback, good and negative. Most of the time it was
Mhm.
negative. Let's be honest. Um, so now, yes, you asked me 20 years ago. No, hated it.
Right. And you said most of the time now it's negative, and being in a role where I advise people on how to give feedback, how to receive feedback, how to frame annual goals, how to create milestones and everything. I really feel like most of the time it's about 50-50, but as humans, what do we remember from most of it? I think it's the main reason why the compliment sandwich that we're familiar with in management is a poor choice to use as management. Maybe a junior level manager uses the compliment sandwich where they give a compliment, something positive, and then the real feedback, and then the sandwich it back with something positive. I think that's for a junior manager so that they could feel good about what they said. Um, but even in that moment where you've got twice as much positive than the actual feedback, you can have some people who only heard the positives and they walk out of there, they said I'm doing a great job. They said something about my timeliness, but they said they really liked working with me and don't remember it. So I think it's funny how some people don't hear it all that's provided for them, and that you've got to really steer the direct quote to somebody, but find a way to say it with humility. And
Yeah, I
I think,
agree. I agree with that. I mean, go back to just the customer. When
mm-hmm,
he leaves an establishment, he had a great experience. He tells, this was the numbers back in the day. I don't know what it is now
sure.
with social media, but it was like he told one or two people. If they have a bad experience, they told 11 to 13. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of the same thing with your staff or, you know, throughout the whole industry.
Yeah, absolutely. That you're going to get more mileage out of a bad complaint than out of a good a compliment. So you seek those compliments, but what's the purpose of them? What's the purpose of the compliment? What's the purpose of the complaint? What's the purpose of the feedback that you're getting?
The purpose of the complaint and the feedback, I guess, from a customer's standpoint is, I think the true goal is to better the establishment,
Okay.
better the experience. That's what they think. I think that's what the heart means. Now, are there some times it's just you have a cranky person, and somebody had a bad day? I mean, I've had a bad day, walked in a restaurant, had a bad experience, and it made my day even worse.
And you're going
Yeah,
to go take it out on some minimum wage hostess at the front of the restaurant because you're having a bad day.
it happens in our industry more than I think it happens in others. You don't
Why
go
is
to the
that?
bank.
Yeah. Why,
They
why
take your
is
money and you still don't yell at them.
why is that the feedback that tips the scales? Why is that the comment that we remember throughout the day? I would argue that throughout the day, people said, "Great job, good burger, this is great service." All these positive things peppered throughout the day, but then one customer comes in and they give a negative complaint, and that's the one you remember going home. Why?
Because everybody's given trophies as kids.
I don't
I'm
know.
just kidding. I'm not going down that. I'm not going down that. Um, you know,
Why do we focus on that one? Why do we focus on the bad?
I don't know. It must be you just take it so personally. I mean, the reason we focus on the bad is it affects us more. I mean, if we're always told, doing a good job, say people say thank you and all that stuff, it's kind of like repetition,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get hit with you suck or this isn't good or just a bad comment. And I guess this is I guess the easiest way to put it for myself because it's hard to put into words. I think it's a tone.
Sure.
People say thank you all the time.
Mm-hmm.
The tone is kind of just thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean, when
Gotta
you
have it. Like saying good morning when you see somebody. I don't actually care if they have a good morning or not.
no, I give 2 Fs. I mean, I care about me if I woke up happy, or if my coffee's hot.
Yeah. Huh?
But I really think it's tone. I mean, I could say the same thing to my wife, the same exact line, and my tone will get 2 different reactions.
Mm-hmm.
That's why texting is so dangerous, especially as a manager. It's one of the things I always tell people: don't text. I understand that is simple information, that's fine, but you never text somebody just like your feelings or anything like that because you cannot tell tone.
Hey, are you thinking about coming into work today when they're 10 minutes late?
Yes, like it might be he wasn't looking at or him they weren't looking at the clock and they didn't even realize that they're late and set that. So the tone I think is everything, and most negative reviews, let's be honest, the tone is very aggressive.
It's all caps, it's exclamation points, it's I didn't like this, but there's no feedback in some of those complaints. And at the beginning of this conversation, you said, and I totally agree, that I like to receive feedback. But if the tone, if the terminology, if the words aren't actually constructive, not giving feedback, and it's just a complaint so that you can hear yourself yelling, there's no construction there. And to be real honest, it's the exact same as somebody walking out going, I loved it. I don't know what you loved. I don't know what you loved about it. I don't know if it was the service. I don't know if it was the food. I don't know if it was the 17 mimosas you had. I don't know what you loved about it, but you walked out of here and you said, I loved everything. Versus somebody going, I hated everything. And why do we listen to that has the same content, which is zero content on I hated it versus I loved it. Zero content on I hated it. Why do we pay more attention to the I hated it on the way home?
Why do we pay more attention to the I hate it? That's the way we were trained.
I think I agree. I think it's a struggle for us to try to find feedback to improve. But I feel that the frustration comes when I'm looking for feedback and I get something like I hated it or that's stupid or something that makes no sense. And now I'm struggling to make sense of what you said. If you tell me that you loved everything, I love everything too. And I'm just going to assume that you love what I love. So we're good. Have a great day. But if you tell me that you hated everything, my struggle on the way home is to figure out what you hated because it's something that I love so much, because you were unable to articulate what the problem was. And now I'm struggling and frustrated to figure out what your complaint was. And who do I take that out on? I'm going to take that out on a customer who gave me poor feedback.
Yeah.
Not negative feedback. They weren't able to explain what was wrong.
Yeah, that's frustrating. I can tell you, I've lived that a lot, but I mean, I'm not sure because this is our industry is very different than everything else, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't give, I mean, nowadays with Amazon, we give stars, but 10 years ago, we didn't do a lot of that stuff, right? Maybe it was 10 years ago around that area. It's just such instantaneous. And, even me and you, when we do, have conversations, we sometimes sit there and think about it for 24 hours so we can kind of just like filter it through what came out, we'd kind of just, even when a brand new concept or new idea or training idea, I think about it, sit there and think about it. I just don't go at it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the instantaneous, that their emotion takes over than what their emotion part of their brain. This is way past my pay grade. Their emotion part of their brain takes over and their logical thinking just takes a nap.
I love that. Yeah. It's if you're giving feedback with emotion, how am I supposed to improve myself or my business based on your emotional outbreak. I can't, because I can't control your emotional outbreak. I can control how we cook the eggs. I can control my staffing levels. I can control my COGS. I can control the products that I brought in, but I can't control your emotions.
No, but then now that I just said that, it's kind of like, but that's kind of what we do. Like
Oh
our
my God.
goal is
Yeah.
to produce a great emotion, and then when we get that great emotion, it's like we almost expect it. I guess maybe that's it. We're expecting good feedback. We're not expecting bad feedback. So I think we're taken back a little bit when we get it.
Sure.
And sometimes we think we're better than them. We're like, oh, well, I've been cooking for freaking 20 years. I know more than Joe Schmo. Well, that might be a Michelin star winning chef. Who knows? Probably not. But
Yeah, you know more about cooking, yes, but you don't know more about their experience today.
exactly.
And I think
you're
that's
100% right.
struggle.
And that took me at least 10 years to understand that.
Yeah.
At least 10 years. And to this day, sometimes I lose sight of that. And let's be honest, we're human. I like to please people. I want to see, I'm on Christmas, I'm the guy that loves giving that gift. Because I love to see that reaction on someone's face when they eat something, like, damn, just that they look like the other way, like, did I just eat that? Or a great experience. Like, we want that emotion, but sometimes we don't want that emotion when it comes to feedback. Because then we don't. Then, like you said, they're not breaking it down for us and telling exactly why. Well, maybe they can't explain their why. Maybe just like, I'm just angry. I don't like it. I don't like what you do here. They're angry about it, and maybe that raw emotion we need to be better at reading into, or asking the right questions.
I'm taking notes as a trainer. Like, how do we read that raw emotion that they're having, so that we can put the words that they're trying to say, so that we can get the feedback, and it'd probably calm them down to be like, what I hear you saying is, even though they're yelling and screaming.
I think maybe that might just tick them off. How about, asking the right question?
Yeah.
I think I tell that to my staff all the time, or when I'm training staff, like, asking the right question is so important, not just for your tips, just for everything. Even to management, or management to staff, kitchen, it translates all over the restaurant and all over the industry. Asking the right question, and sometimes it's like, I hate that. Thank you, I appreciate that feedback. Why? I want to know why, because I honestly want to fix it.
I hated that is a good title to your article. Now I need you to explain what it was that happened and why you hated it. Yeah. Because if you're just reading headlines, I know you hated it, but I don't know anything about anything, and I can't fix that. And I think that leads right into the next question on how is it that we can separate true complaints versus people who are just looking to take advantage of a business or a manager or a restaurant? What's the difference?
What's the difference in the complaint that
somebody who's
taking advantage of?
Yeah, somebody trying to take advantage of a situation, or somebody who's actually trying to give you feedback. How do you separate those two?
Separating, for me, it's experience. It was experience. That's how I know how to separate the two.
But what do you mean experience? So if you stood in the front entryway for 10 years, now you learned how to do it. What's the difference?
I think it's just dealing with the complaints. It's easier to sort through them. It's the same thing online. When you read online comments, you can see the ones, not all the time. I'm being very general here. You can kind of see the ones that are legit complaints when they're more detailed, and they're more, I guess, saying, almost say thank you afterwards, or I apologize. Like they're like, they feel guilty almost saying this, and those are the ones I want to hear, because
they feel compelled to share.
Yeah. Now, should they do it online? No, they should do it before they leave. Start to get sidetracked. That's why I tell, one of the things in training, I'm like, get them before they leave the door. Always ask them,
good or bad.
Can you give us a review online, please? And they're like, well, I don't think I want to give you a review. It's gonna be a bad one. Wait right here. Let me get a manager. Or
absolutely.
That's where you can stop it. Anyway, past that. So I really think, and this might sound really bad, and I'm going to probably get a lot of stuff thrown at me at this one, but I think it's tone. I can almost, by the tone of the complaint, I can tell if they're just trying to take advantage of a situation or not. Though in the last 5 years, I've had a lot less of that. And I don't know if it's just my location, or just the kind of establishments I've been working in?
Well, I also think that it's to your point of experience. And what is that experience? It's the ability to truly listen to somebody. Like if they're really frustrated, to start getting into the heart of what's frustrating them. And while you're listening to their complaint, you help them pull everything apart and identify what the true issue was. And if there is no issue, if they're just there trying to take advantage of you because they know if they complain loud enough, they'll get something for free, they won't be able to find something that's actually a problem. But if there is a problem, if they are somebody who's just trying to give you feedback, even if they're so emotional, they don't know how to piece it together, that experience that you're talking about, you can walk them through. All right, so I hear that you're frustrated. I'm so sorry about that. Let's get down to the issue so that I know what to fix. Because if you just hate everything, I've got nothing to work on. Yeah. But if I can get you to explain what happened, I might be able to find what the problem was. And I think as a good manager, if you see that same problem happening time and time again, you attack it. If you see that problem happening once, you take note.
Yeah. I mean, one of the, nowadays, this is kind of, the ones that give the best feedback start like this. I don't want anything free, but.
Sure. Yeah. Or one thing that I like to do is I pay my bill first.
Yeah.
I pay my bill. I tip my server, and we talked about tipping before. And the only time that I do anything on the tip, like I will not punish a server based on the business's issue. That tip is between me and the server. If I got bad food, that tip has nothing to do with it. If the restaurants or the restrooms are dirty, that's not about me and the server. And so I'll pay that bill if I'm not looking for something for free, and then I'll talk to a manager. So like, oh, let me take care of something. I'm like, I already did that. I just want you to know this. So that kind of feedback, obviously it's not all caps and yelling and screaming.
No.
We've been doing this for a lot longer than the average customer.
Yeah.
What do you think the difference is between seasoned managers who are in the restaurant versus a regional manager getting a complaint?
Oh, it's, I don't want to equate it to military, but it's like you got the front lines and then you got the people in the back, saying, well, you should, armchair quarterback kind of thing. Well, the customer's always right, make it happy. We don't want to get complaints, blah, blah, blah. I think the manager on the front lines deals with it on a daily basis. Sometimes it gets jaded. Let's just be honest.
Sure.
But they're the ones going to have to fix the problem. And I guess the regional manager is more like, let's make sure that problem doesn't keep on coming back. And then if you see a pattern, then that might be a manager problem. I mean, that's where the regional manager is his job. So
what I hear you saying is, if the regional manager continues to get the same complaints, it may be a management problem, not a restaurant problem. Like maybe it's not the COGS, maybe it's not the product quality, maybe it's not staffing levels, maybe it's the manager is the problem. If the regional manager continues to get the same complaint over and over
from the same unit, yes. I mean, if it's coming through all units, then that's a different story. But I mean, I think that's a regional manager's job. That's why all the big chains have them. I mean, there's a reason behind it. It's not just about the COGS and the numbers and the bonuses and they got to make sure everything lines up, your P&Ls. But you see consistent things coming from one unit, and if it's the same complaint, then the manager's not taking care of something. And if it's food quality, then obviously the manager doesn't care. If he keeps getting the same exact complaint and it's not being fixed, a good manager, I feel, would go fix that. Talk to the kitchen or talk to the server or talk to the bartender, fix the CO2, call maintenance, whatever they need to do to fix that issue. But if it's the same issue popping up, the beer's flat, the beer's flat, the beer's flat, I would call the manager and go, why is the beer flat? Did you get somebody to check the CO2?
Well, that's just a customer complaining. They think it's flat. I'm like, no, I get this every week, Wednesday through Friday. This is the same complaint I get over and over. Yes, some of the customers were unruly about it. Some were better at explaining it. But either way, they're all complaining about the same thing. Yeah. So
and a good regional manager can read through that stuff pretty fast.
Right. So what is too much? What is too much? At what point do you stop listening to a customer or a guest who's complaining about something?
You close the doors.
You mean close the business or close the
Yeah, you
service?
shut it up. I mean, if you don't listen to feedback, there's a few restaurants out there that get away with it. There's some out there that do it. I mean, there's actually Dick's Last Resort. That's their job to get complaints.
I'm I don't know their business model, and to be honest, I'm not a fan of going in there. That's not the kind of service that I want. I don't know
Yeah.
that. However, I can appreciate why somebody would want to go in there and wear the hat with the sometimes crude insults on it and have that. But if you've got a true complaint about something, there has to be somebody in there that you can actually complain to that will take you seriously. They have to. There's no way. There's no way.
Oh, I'll have to look that one up. I got to do a little more digging. I need to know. I don't know anybody that works there. I don't know if they're, I haven't been to one since I was in my teens. It was on the Riverwalk, actually.
At the Riverwalk, San Antonio, and I read some of the things they wrote on people's hats. I'm like, I don't have the patience to deal with that.
No. Nowadays you couldn't do a lot of that stuff anyway.
This was recent. Like those would be the things that I'd complain about. So what do? I avoid the establishment so that I'm not offended by things that offend my thin skin. Yeah.
Yeah, thin skin. That's funny. I think back to the original question, when is it too much? From one person or from the collective group, like the customer group?
When is it too much from one person? At what point do you tell that customer, I no longer care about you and your complaint?
Well, I'm never going to say that.
Oh, I'd happily say that. You've never asked a customer to leave?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. But I don't say it like that.
Oh, no phrasing.
The only time I'll give back some of my experience. So early on when I graduated culinary school, I went into a chain. I'm not going to tell you the name of the chain. I worked for a chain restaurant as an AGM, assistant general manager, 23. This is before we met. And I wanted to learn the books because I at the time I wanted to open a restaurant like soon.
Yeah, same fault. I was like, teach me the numbers. Like, no, go work in the front and learn how to adjust the blinds on time.
Exactly. So I worked in this place and I was a manager, and I was very cocky, and I was probably not the best employee, to be honest with you. I was young and just cocky. But there's one thing I would not put up with, and that would be insulting my staff. Staff, I took it very personally because back to that, I wanted to be liked. I really wanted to be liked, and I wasn't always liked because I was rough around the edges. Well, still am. So a customer moved from the bar area to a table, and then ordered another beer, and it was $1 more than they paid in the bar area. Well, at the time, the bar area got $1 off. That was a happy hour thing that we did.
Sure.
But you moved the table into the dining room to a new server. The server does not know who you are, and so it doesn't translate. It was not $1 off in that area, and they threw a fit, and then they said something very rude to my server. I'm not going to get into what they said, but I just got red-faced. My Irish came out, or German. Pick one. And then
your Paul came out.
My Paul came out. My chefy came out, I guess you could put it. I threw a ladle across the room. No, I didn't do that. I've done that before, though. So I walked to the table, and then started berating me. And I was like, I don't appreciate yelling at my staff. You can yell at me all you want. I can take it. And then they're like, well, she can't take it. And I'm like, let me fix this. Blah blah blah. And the gentleman goes, the wife's sitting right next to me. And she has not said a word. My wife's a lawyer. And I pulled in my pocket, pulled out my wallet, took $1, slammed it on the table. Like, well, then you need this more than I do, because she's probably
I'd have fired you.
No, I didn't get fired. I got called from corporate,
and
I had to write an apology, which I did. A thoughtful, because I did. I mean, at the time it felt great. My staff loved me.
Of course, yeah.
But I mean, that went straight to the top. And I worked for a franchise. It didn't go to the franchise top, which it did. It went to the top of top. I got a phone call from
in that conversation, because I agree. I think that they were totally in the wrong about accosting one of your employees. At what point did you cross the line and lost control of the situation, allowing them to win that?
I think when they started demeaning me and my staff, and then talk, you know, kind of like, we have money, you know, that this is not about the dollar, which it was. Let's be honest, it was about the dollar.
Yeah.
I think the demeaning of it, and just, you know, almost like being the help, you know what I mean? And I didn't like it. And I was young, and I was, again, cocky, and I thought they were in the wrong, which they were, but I was in the wrong for the way I responded.
Mhm.
You
I
know?
mean, I'm 100% with you, and those things irk me to no end.
Yeah.
And something I've had to learn over my career is the patience that the only way to, you can call it winning this conversation, is to not stoop down to their level. Because as soon as you stoop to their level, I swear, that's what they wanted in the first place.
Yeah,
Is
it is.
I want to get under your skin, and if you allow them to, man, they get whatever they want.
Yeah.
And I love customers who just want to give feedback about, hey, this isn't the same in this area of restaurant as this area of restaurant. Cool, here's how we explain that. I'm happy to take care of that if that's what you're after. Nope, I don't want the dollar. I just want to let you know. Cool, I know. Sit down and enjoy your margarita.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I think that's where the experience comes in, the patience. Like,
yeah.
I learned, as you get older, I got more patience. I still don't have that much, but I still got more of it. And I feel that I would handle that completely different now.
Yeah.
You know, and it's
tough,
but it's easier for me to train somebody on what not to do because I've done it.
I went into training. I tell people to do things all the time that is extremely hard for me to do on difficult conversations, on HR conversations, on dealing with the guest. I'm like, yeah, just do this. It's easy.
Yeah. Oh, it's easy. Just do this, and you give them a script. And you know, we use, when I do a lot of server trainings when it comes to just like getting in there, and I'm not telling me where to put the fork. Mine is just a refresher, you know, because a lot of these guys are and girls are ladies are pros, but sometimes just get a refresher from a different pair of ears. And we use that whole the blast, you know, believe, listen, that whole thing, and
Sure.
and it's just something that kind of keeps them in their head. It's not, they're not going to go through and go, believe, okay, I believe you. No.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, all right, let me just do my steps. Let me slow this down. Let me calm down. Let me listen to the customer. See what the real problem is. Because if they're not giving me a real problem, then that's when you just get a manager involved. But most of the time, it can be solved at the server level.
Yeah, and it's when it can't be that it comes to you, and when that can't be solved, that it goes to the regional, etc. So it's a matter of, that's just a filter. And I think that goes back to why is a regional manager more likely to just give the customer whatever they want? And I think that answer is because they've heard this complaint consistent enough that I am going to muffle this customer. I'm going to give them what they want. I'm going to give them a free meal or whatever it might be, get you out of here because I heard your complaint, and I'm thinking of collective complaints here so that I can start acting on what I need to do. And the longer I sit here and listen to you complain when I already know what the issue is, the less time that I can spend on solving the problem. So yes, I'm going to give you that dollar so that I can make improvements on my business. And I think that's what a regional manager does sometimes when you're like, man, they're complaining so much. Why are you just giving everything away to them? I'm like, I'm not. I'm working on the solution. And that customer has already told me what they need to tell me. They are no longer part of the solution. I no longer want to hear them anymore because I've heard them out and I've solved their problem for them by giving them something.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and basically, that's kind of what we run into. I think where it gets now, where it's a lot different than it was, you know, when we came up. And I hate to keep saying that, but I mean, the internet, you know, we used to worry about the food reviewer, you know, who's trained in doing this stuff, or trained in
that printed something in the newspaper a week later. So let's flip that though, and move forward. Is when does taking the customer side negatively affect the culture in your business?
That's a slippery slope.
When should you?
I'll be honestly, I don't think it does.
Okay.
I mean, can you have a malicious manager? I'm sure, but in general, if there's complaints, consistent complaints on the same thing. Now, if it's one complaint and it's we never get on, you know, like we have, let's say they say that our beer lines weren't clean, and we know we clean our beer lines every week. You know what I mean? Now I'm putting those aside. If it's a consistent complaint, why would that then I think if I'm a regional manager, I'm going straight to the manager and go, what's wrong with our culture? Because, we're getting the same complaint. Are you not, taking care of this? I don't know how that would affect culture, at least not to my knowledge.
Well, I'm thinking that the staff watches you interact with this customer and watches you interact with this complaint, watches them escalate, and watches how you either escalate with them or watches how you work to de-escalate.
Okay, so more. Okay, so I think with the manager, the way that they interact with a customer on a complaint on a consistent basis is basically what the culture is.
Yeah.
I mean, if a manager it gets combative very quickly all the time, then I'm guessing it's getting combative quickly all the time with his staff.
Also, yeah. If he won't listen to that customer, he's not going to listen to me.
No. So I mean, I put if I see a manager yelling back at a customer, I guarantee that same manager is yelling at his staff.
Mm-hmm. Or at least some of them. He might have favorites that he doesn't yell at, and then somebody else makes a complaint or tries to make a complaint about my schedule or anything. They're going to yell back. Like, yeah. I don't think it's completely conclusive, but oh my goodness, I think it's a strong indicator of what type of manager.
It's a very strong indicator. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can just tell just how the owner or the GM or treat their employees. I think it's almost. You said they're not going to give them, but it's a direct.
No, I'm not drawing conclusions, but it's a snapshot, and that snapshot does tell you some things.
And it trickles down to customers,
mm-hmm.
and because the servers are going to be not act the same way, but the culture is going to be, they're going to be eroded, because they're like, why? Like if I come into work and he's doing the same thing to the customers, or she's doing the same thing to customers and then to the staff, it's a crappy environment, and then I'm not going to work. I'm not going to show as much effort. I'm just going to get my money, get my 18%, and go home.
And then what kind of staff is going to stay? The kind of staff that says, "Ooh, we're allowed to talk to customers like that." Yep. So now I'm going to stay because I get rewarded when I talk back to customers. Where someone like our new, more experienced selves would be like, "I can't work here. I want to listen to the customer and I want to work and try to improve things. This isn't the environment for me." So I leave. Meanwhile, somebody who's like, yeah, I don't want to work with the customers. I don't want to deal with them wishing they had the green sauce instead of the red sauce. And I'm going to tell them what I think of them because that's what my manager would do. Yeah. So at some point, there's a fault in always siding one way or the other. And you've got to find a management team that knows how to balance, one, to take care of the feedback that customer is giving you, and two, to set the example for the way that your staff and your culture needs to move forward.
Yeah. I mean, like having a cause is the same thing. If you believe in something and your company believes in something, your restaurant believes in something, that you need to find the staff that believe in the same thing. And then that finds a customer base that believes in the same thing. Uh-huh. And that is the culture. But it's the same thing as customer service. If you've been to those places, you walk in the door and they always stop what they're doing and say, "Hi, welcome to Joe Schmo's."
Mm-hmm.
It might be a little bit annoying as a customer when I walk in. I gotta be honest with you, it's a little annoying to me. But then I sit there, I'm like, they're happy to see me. And then the server's just a little happier for some reason. It's just, that's what they do. People enjoy going to work. I have a bartender, by far the best bartender I've ever worked with. She came aboard one time when I was running a restaurant, and we had terrible weeknight sales. And I'm telling you, I think I did the math. She was worth like at least $80,000 a year, and boosting sales. I mean, crazy numbers. Once you met her one time, you walked in the door, she knew your name. Walked into the bar, she goes, "Hi, Joe, great to see you again." Blah blah. Now, was she always the happiest go lucky? No,
but she's a real person. They have bad days.
She's a real person, and people, even when we got a complaint because she got snippy with somebody, it was warranted. You probably should have banned the other dude, but
sure.
It was just the culture she brought to that night shift was unparalleled. It wasn't always perfect. I'm not trying to say it was always perfect, but it was unbelievable. And the loyalty we got from customers You know, even if a customer started acting drunk or belligerent, the other customers would step in before she had to.
I want to go back on something you said about the saying hi to people when they walk in. And I want to look at it for an end goal there. If you teach your staff and train your staff and hold your staff accountable to say hi to somebody and greet them when they walk in the front door, to your point, the customer's like, this is what I get when I get here. I feel like I'm at home. Let's think about the employee that you might have that hates doing that. They don't want to greet people. They think it's hokey. They think it's stupid. Why do we have to do this? Why do we have to say this to greet people at the beginning? Those employees are going to be the first to leave because you've created this culture of, let's say hi to our guests. They're like, I don't like saying hi to my guests.
Well,
cool.
That's what we do here.
That's what we do here.
Yeah.
So I can see where every day I'm saying hi to everybody walking in, and it might feel tedious and be tedious. And I might see it as something that's a challenge on my bad days to do, but I also don't mind it because of the culture that it's creating. So on my bad days, I still do it. But somebody who has so many bad days that they don't like it and they think it's hokey and childish, they can leave your establishment because they don't see the bigger picture. They just see the selfishness of, I'm having a bad day. Why should I have to say hello to everybody? Like, because this isn't about you.
It's okay to lose a good employee that does not fit your culture.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, my
It's
goodness.
better for them. It's better for you. It's not a bad thing. I know everybody's like, well, I can't find anybody. I don't believe that. I know they're out there.
That might be your problem.
Yeah. One of the best advice I got from my mentor, he told me, he goes, listen, all the good people have jobs. You have to go find them. They're not going to find you. Now, can your culture and your beliefs and your, your why bring people gravitate to you? Absolutely. But to build that, you need to go find people. And good people that fit your culture, aren't cheap. They're not. You got to pay. But you got, it's people get so tied up in their P&L sometimes, and I'm the first one. I love, me, I love my numbers. Well, my labor is gonna be too high. Yeah, but did your sales go up? Because 2% build and sales hides like 10% of nastiness. So sales is a cure-all. If you have a great staff that sells more and your check average is higher, because remember, there's only two ways to build sales, and that's check average and butts in the seats.
Yep.
So, I just tell people, it's not poaching. I don't. People get all upset about the poaching thing. It's like, they fit my culture. I want them. I will pay them. It's not my fault you're not paying them.
Yeah, if they're leaving you, that says something to you. Like, if you're amazing and I'm amazing +1, I win. So it's if I'm amazing and you're not, of course they're easily leaving. If I can convince your staff to leave, you've got a culture problem.
Yeah, I agree. And people take it so personally. This industry, it's so personal. And no other industry would. Well, maybe there's not others, but there's not a lot of industries out there that it's so personal. And even big cities like New York, a lot of people at a lot of same places. I mean, it's just the culture of the business, and people take it so personally. Well, you poached my line cook. I needed a line cook. He's one of the best in town. I pay him $4 more an hour. I don't care. He's like, whoa, I was getting him such a good deal. I was like, that's your fault. I wanted him, and I'll pay him more. He is worth that much more. Now, the only time I get mad is when people pay him $1 more and they give him less hours. That just ticks me off.
So let me go back a little bit more mainstream on the topic and start to wrap this up.
We're going all over the place.
It's what we do. It's fine. It's great. I'm just looking at my notes. I'm like, all right, here we go. Let's call complaints feedback. Okay. At the beginning of this conversation, we both agreed we like to receive feedback. So in a backwards way, we like to receive complaints. What steps does a business need to take in order to address any issue that's brought up to them?
The number one thing I tell people is reply to every single online or anybody that makes a comment, good or bad, needs to be heard.
Yeah.
You need to either reply to it if it's online, or if it's in the restaurant, even if it's good. If somebody says something good, I want the manager to know.
Thank you. Something. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Just or even if the staff, I tell the staff, if you get somebody says you did a great job, I want to know you that. Please, just tell me. It's not being cocky. I want to know these things, because how I'm going to know, and how am I going to know that bank of goodwill? When you do really, really good, all this good stuff, you have one bad day, because we all do. You made all those deposits. We'll be a little more flexible on it. But I want to know. I want my staff to respond to all good and bad feedback. Period.
I like that a lot. And we talked earlier about it's not about the dollar. And I think you just answered it. What is it about? It's about being heard. Good, bad, loud, quiet, online, in person, whatever it is, that guest wants to be heard. And they want the feeling of, I hear you, I understand you. And I think that's our goal as business owners, as servers, as people who are trying to make that extra tip, as managers who are trying to build a culture, is making sure that you let them know, I hear you. And if it's something that you've heard 1,000 times, cool. I've heard it 1,001 times. Great. And I'm going to listen 1,002 times if I have to. And if it's a real complaint or not a real complaint, I still need to hear you.
Yeah, absolutely. There's proven numbers. If you respond online, if you respond to negative reviews, just respond. Even say, I'm sorry. Number one, my first lesson, take it offline. Please, people, take it offline. Email me. Don't pick a fight online. That stuff drives me nuts. But if you respond to a negative review, a person like me just reading it is 2 times more likely to go to your spot, because they think you care. They think you care.
Paying attention. Yep.
Yes. And those are little things.
I know that if I'm in that establishment and I have a problem, which I'm okay if I have a problem, I'm not okay if I have a problem and you don't show me that you care about it. But if I have a problem and you want to fix it, I'm coming back, because I know that, hey man, not everything goes perfectly every time. But if you're there to fix it and you're willing to listen, cool, let's go. I'm willing to give it another shot, and I'm going to come experience your establishment the way you meant for it to be. Yeah. And I know that more times than not, I'm going to experience it the right way, rather than there being an issue, whether it's you didn't call my number or this was overcooked or whatever it is. I don't care. Yeah. You listening, I think, is the greatest thing. And I love that you said that about what's the ultimate goal, making sure that that customer or even your staff feels like they've been heard.
Yeah. And when being heard, body language is imperative. And because when somebody gives you feedback and you're sitting there like, yeah, sorry, you know what I mean? It really is. People don't even mean to, like, come on, I understand. No. But like when you sit there and like look them in the eye and focus and listen, they pick up on that.
Right.
And that is the hardest thing to train for online reviews. It's like, you need online body language, and that's hard, because and I've seen people that play that game to a pure 10.
And what's one of the first positions to go in hard times? Your marketing department.
I'm furloughed.
Man. Any last points? I'm going to start to wrap it up.
I just think that people spend time and effort on so many things in the restaurant, just money and P&Ls and stock and inventory and checking the liquor, and they just sometimes forget feedback. I mean, 10, 15 years ago, I feel like every restaurant had a little box that you could drop a little note in, right? Now those are gone and it's all online. So, my advice to, servers and owners and in the business is like, get that before it leaves the door. And it used to leave the door on that piece of paper. That was an outlet for people. It was anonymous. Sometimes they don't want to be heard. They want just to do it anonymously. So that's why the internet is so much more
saturated.
Yes. Yeah. Get it before it leaves the door. And even if it's just a note box, or if it's just saying, hey, please leave a review for us, and then the guy and the person or the customer goes, I would never do that, stop them, and then have a SOP to get them happy. I mean, or get their feedback.
I think one thing I see that I think would help along here of how do we address that as a business is I think we need to redefine what the table touch is, because there's too many times that I'm in a restaurant and some junior manager or even a seasoned manager who's all buttoned up and acting like they own the place comes around and literally touches the table and go, is everything okay? Is everything okay? And I can see them going each table, is everything okay? Because it's 10 o'clock. I'm supposed to go around and do table touches, and it's not genuine. They don't care. If I did have a complaint, I'm not telling this person who's barely coming over that we need to work with our management team so that when they're doing the table touches, it's not forced, that it's because they genuinely want to hear if there's an issue of any size. Was your fork clean? Did you get enough plates? Do you have enough napkins? Do you need some ketchup? Something. Open the door for complaints so that if you're truly wanting to listen to your customer and have them feel heard, you're walking around asking for it, not waiting for them to come to you. Because we know if we're just sitting back waiting for them to come to me, who's going to come to me? The complainers. And I want to hear all of it. I want to hear all of it.
One good, like if you have a good meal, you tell one or two people. If a bad meal, you tell 13. It's the same thing with complaints. Inside, they're not going to 1 out of 13 who can tell you something good. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think that the structure of the table touch is all wrong. It has to be reward based. Because the more reviews you get online, it will kind of push down the bad stuff. I guess it's the easiest way to put it. But it also will bubble up the things that are actually problems. So that's why we did a reward based of reviews for you per unit. The units that got the most reviews, and that's where the managers got involved, and it was written down. Somebody said I had a great experience. Would you mind writing that down for me? I like to share that with my staff. I've never had a customer say no to that. Sure, I'd love to. But
especially if they actually want to be heard. Oh, you want to hear me and read it and post it? Yeah, here's my opinion. Take it. Yeah, cool.
I mean, great talking nowadays on these little pads, you can leave a review right then and there.
Yeah. Let's go. Or I don't know where my phone is, but those little pads as well.
Oh, yeah?
Leave a review right there.
Well, that's the difference. Is nowadays, before these little things, you would tell 13 people. Now you can actually live video stream 10,000 people.
Yes, whether they
tell you what I think about your place.
Yeah. Cool. Great talking points. Good perspectives. Really enjoy these conversations, and I think it's important for us to open up the opportunities to see what businesses struggle with and how customers are trying to give feedback, and then how businesses have to balance in between what true feedback is, good or bad, and what customers do sometimes to try to get one up on the business. And for us, you made the point solidly, was we just need to listen to the customer, make sure that we're making them feel like they're heard, we're listening to what they're saying, and we're taking action, whether it's small action or big action, whatever it needs to be, they need to feel heard. So I know I speak for you when I say, for anyone who's watching, thank you. We'd love to hear your perspective on the customer being right. When is it true? When is it no longer helpful, and when does it break apart your business culture? Also, if you've got stories about customers and you'd like for us to comment on them, leave those in the comments and we'll look through them and hear your customer complaints, or when you heard a customer complain and you were able to turn it around and find out what they were truly having a complaint about. Anything, Paul, before we head out of here?
No, just I love different styles or different thoughts on it. I mean, I think I'd love to learn more. There's always different ways you can handle these situations, and thank you. And I think saying thank you. Yeah, that's easy. One of the things that is easily missed. Thank you. Thanks for the feedback, even if it's bad. So thank you, everybody, and definitely leave some examples. I'd love to read through them.
Yeah, we're ready for the feedback. Bring it on.
Please.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, everybody.
All right, brother.